Curse of the Dragon. The kingdom of Eldoria was dying. The land had once flourished, but now the fields were barren, and the rivers ran black with rot. At night, the sky wept blood, and the wind carried whispers that spoke of forgotten sins. No one entered the castle anymore except for those who wished to die. At the heart of the cursed kingdom sat Queen Lyrian, the last of her bloodline. She had not slept in weeks. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them shadowy figures watching her from the corners of the room, whispering in voices that did not belong to the living. Blood calls to blood. Return what was stolen. She knew what they want. The curse had begun centuries ago when King Aldros, her ancestor, had slain the great dragon Vadris in an act of arrogance. He had not merely killed it, he had consumed its blood, believing it would grant him power beyond death. And in a way, it had. Aldros did not die. Not truly. His flesh had decayed, his bones had twisted, and his soul had fused with something unnatural. He became a thing that should not exist, a wraith bound to the castle, feeding on the fear and suffering of his descendants. And now, as the last heir of Eldoria, Lyrian knew her time had come. That night, the whispers grew into screams. The castle trembled, the walls bleeding black ichor. The torches flicked and died. Lyrian felt something crawling beneath her skin, moving, as if something unseen was burrowing into her bones. She could not fight it anymore. With a candle in hand, she descended into the catacombs beneath the castle, the place no one dared to go. The stairs seemed endless, twisting in impossible directions. The air grew heavy, thick with decay and the scent of burnt flesh. Then she saw them, the kings of Eldoria. They lined the walls, their bodies preserved yet rotting, their mouths twisted in silent screams. Their eyes glowed dimly, watching her with eternal hunger. They did not move, but she could feel them breathing. At the center of the chamber lay the dragon's skull, massive and cracked, resting upon a blackened alt. It was alive. Veins of dark energy pulsed through the bones. Its mouth was slightly open, and inside, something shifted. The whispers grew deafening now, filling Lyrian's head until she could no longer think. Return what was stolen. Her hands trembled as she reached inside the skull's mouth. Her fingers touched something wet, something beating, and then it opened its eyes. A sound unlike anything in this world filled the chamber, a scream from the abyss itself. The walls cracked, the skeletal kings lurched forward, their mouths stretching unnaturally wide. Lyrian tried to run, but the hands of her ancestors grabbed her, pulling her back, their fingers burrowing into her flesh. She screamed as her own body began to change, her veins turning black, her skin splitting as something inside her awoke. The last thing she saw was the dragon's skull splitting open, revealing a maw filled with teeth, eyes, and something that should never have existed. Then the darkness swallowed her whole. The next morning, the sun rose over Eldoria for the first time in 1,000 years. But the kingdom was empty. No one remained. No voices. No whispers. No screams. Only a single figure stood upon the castle walls, gazing upon the land. Her eyes burned like fire. Her skin was cracked, scales creeping up her neck. The curse was not broken.